We'll see some sunny spells, just a few showers in western Scotland. But head further south, the cloud already thickening, turning wet across Dumfries and Galloway for the morning rush hour. Really soggy start for Northern Ireland and heavy bursts of rain covering much of Wales and Western England too. Much of the East Midlands and East Anglia in the southeast will have a dry and generally dry, fine starts, which will continue for most of the day. But the winds will be picking up in the west. Have Met Office warnings in place for South Wales, southwest Scotland and for the afternoon southwest England, with another pulse of rain coming in here. We also have to keep an eye on Northern Ireland because again here the ground is very wet, so more rain could also cause some flooding issues here. Much of northern Scotland stays dry on the chilly side here, but elsewhere it is, again, pretty mild with temperatures into the teens. The rain continues through the evening. A lot of spray surface water on the roads for Tuesday evening's rush hour. Yellow warnings remain in place across the west too. That rain continues northwards, grinds to a halt on Wednesday across the far north. Further showery rain in the south, but in between we should on Wednesday see something a little drier and a little brighter with some sunshine around. Goodbye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now! It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
I also think we're doing a reasonably good job of walking along the joyous tightrope of the culture wars, where, you know, being progressive, diverse, doing the things we should be proud of is not woke.
it is, and the BBC Director General gone.
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
BBC Chief Executive of News gone. And now the countdown for the BBC to be sued for $1 billion by President Trump is on. But get this.
I was very disappointed recently that Ofcom decided not to proceed with proposals to take action on politicians presenting the news.
Well, Labour's Culture, Media and Sports Minister threatens GB News. Bring it on. We'll be here a lot longer than you. Also, Starmer's brass neck as he lays a wreath, but...
Do you have an idea roughly how many veterans sleep rough on our streets each night as we approach Christmas, Minister?
So those numbers are really hard to know.
His Veterans Minister doesn't know how many homeless veterans there actually are, and... Another illegal migrant we sent back to France has returned. Plus...
These events, these activities, this unity must grow and continue and take over not just parts of Birmingham, but the whole of Birmingham, the whole of the West Midlands.
A Muslim MP calls for a takeover of the West Midlands and... A Palestine Action protester is on the run after being released from prison to attend a wedding. On my panel tonight is Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist Benjamin Butterworth and Reform member, former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry. And I regret to inform you that Meghan Markle will release a Christmas special. Oh my gosh. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. How dare Sir Keir Starmer lay a wreath for veterans when he's trying to prosecute them and put illegals in their barracks? Next.
Very good evening to you. It is 9:02 here in the GB newsroom. Our top story. Donald Trump has threatened the BBC with a $1 billion legal action over the editing of his speech in a Panorama documentary. His legal team's accusing the corporation of defaming the US president and has demanded a retraction, giving the broadcaster until Friday evening to respond. Earlier, the chairman, Samir Shah, apologised for what he called an error of judgment in the documentary, which put two parts of Mr Trump's speech together, so he appeared to explicitly encourage the Capitol Hill riots of January 2021. It has prompted the resignation of the BBC's Director General Tim Davie and its head of news, Deborah Turness.
I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me. But I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
A spokesperson for the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, says the BBC's taken responsibility and retains the government's support. But Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says it highlights long-standing issues at the corporation.
This isn't just about the latest doctoring of a documentary about Donald Trump. It's about the way the BBC has continually covered issues of sex and gender. A lot of women out there believe that the BBC is institutionally biased against them. A lot of Jewish people believe that the BBC is institutionally biased against them. And so those are the people that I'm speaking out for. It's not about just, the high-profile names. It is about everyday people who watch the BBC and know that what they're watching is not true.
Rachel Reeves has given the strongest hint yet that she will announce tax rises in the budget. Speaking to the BBC, the Chancellor suggested she'll be unable to honour Labour's manifesto pledge not to increase income tax because doing so would mean deep cuts in public spending. She's also understood to be planning to scrap the two-child benefit cap in a move that could cost more than £3 billion, saying children should not be penalised for being part of a large family. A second illegal migrant removed under the one-in, one-out deal with France has returned to the UK. The Home Office says he was detained yesterday, immediately having been detected by biometrics, and will be deported back to France as quickly as possible, adding that anyone looking to return to the UK after being removed is wasting their time and money. He was one of almost 400 asylum seekers picked up in the Channel yesterday. The government says his detection proves the scheme is working. 8 people have been killed after an explosion near a popular landmark in the Indian capital, New Delhi. The police commissioner of the city says it happened just before 7 p.m. local time when a slow-moving vehicle stopped at a red light and then exploded. The blast occurred near the Red Fort, a tourist destination in a densely populated area of the city. Around 20 other people have been injured, and police say the cause of the explosion is not yet known. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has been released from prison 3 weeks into a 5-year jail sentence. The 70-year-old is now under judicial supervision and is banned from leaving the country. An appeal trial is expected to take place in March. Sarkozy was jailed last month after being convicted of conspiring to raise campaign funds from Libya. He's consistently denied any wrongdoing. And the International Olympic Committee is set to announce a blanket ban on transgender women in female competitions early next year. The new IOC president, Kirsty Coventry, has made it clear she wants to drive through the campaign pledge to protect female categories. Last week, the IOC's medical and scientific director updated the committee after a review of evidence about the permanent physical advantages of being born male. However, the IOC says no decisions have been taken yet. Those are your headlines. Now it's back to Patrick.
Good evening. I think Sir Keir Starmer has some brass neck doing this. It's his government that is now prosecuting some elderly veterans. They're dragging them through the courts, ruining their lives. It's his government that is housing illegal immigrants in military barracks. It's his government that has a veterans minister with no idea how many homeless veterans there are.
Do you have an idea roughly how many veterans sleep rough on our streets each night as we approach Christmas, Minister?
So those numbers are really hard to know.
But what sort of number do you think we might be talking of here?
So I think...
No, but what do you think the number is, Minister?
So we know with Op Fortitude that we see referrals in the tens every week.
I don't think you know the figure, because I have asked you 3 times.
So it's really important to understand how we can collect the data.
It's 3,700, believed to be.
And, yeah.
Yeah. It is Sir Keir Starmer's government that can't rule out having former members of the IRA sitting on their legacy commission designed to get to the bottom of unexplained deaths during the Troubles.
The commission that you're referring to, the panel, is going to be made up of victims and survivors, and veterans are going to be included on there.
The question I'm asking is, should former members of the IRA be allowed to sit on that group? That is the suggestion.
So we haven't got the makeup of that panel at all, and it's about victims and it's about survivors. I'm
asking you, do you think that former members of the IRA ought to be allowed to sit on that group?
I absolutely think it should be for victims and for survivors.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? It is his Attorney General who represented Jerry Adams, who was being sued for damages by victims of 3 IRA bomb attacks. Angela Rayner, the former deputy leader of the Labour Party, can't even be bothered to spell Remembrance Day correctly on a social media post about it. Remarkable. It was a Labour council in Upton on the Wirral who wanted to cancel a Remembrance Sunday ceremony held every year since World War I over health and safety fears.
Was going to be a disaster and has probably turned out to be the biggest parade I've seen here in 25 years. Thank you.
Is it any wonder that when Sir Keir Starmer laid his wreath at the cenotaph, there were murmurings of disgust and even a loud boo from within the veterans group near me at the ceremony? And by the way, just look at how the associate editor of the left-wing independent newspaper reacted to my social media post about that. Boos? Well, it was their side that lost after all. So when I asked him if he was calling veterans Nazis, he said, "Oh, no, of course not. I assumed it may have come from others." But of course, it's not just Labour, is it? The new Green Party leader, Zach Polanski, wore a white poppy as well as a red one. The SNP and Plaid Cymru laid a wreath at the cenotaph that appeared to just have their own party logos on it and not actually a message to the veterans. Yesterday, one pro-Gaza Muslim MP from your party, Ayub Khan, made a big song and dance about laying wreaths. And then, though, was proceeded to be one of several people who attended an event which seemed to be geared towards the Muslim community, where another pro-Gaza Muslim MP, Iqbal Mohammed, spoke essentially about taking over the West Midlands.
These events, these activities, this unity must grow and continue and take over not just parts of Birmingham, but the whole of Birmingham, the whole of the West Midlands, the whole of the UK. Grassroots democracy in action. And we, our communities, have shown the establishment and the rest of the country that we will not be taken for granted, and we will win.
I couldn't see many poppies in that audience there. When you all add that together, OK, I don't think it's any wonder that 100-year-old veteran Alec Penston said... Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and former party member, former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, do you think Keir Starmer's got a bit of a brass neck laying a wreath to veterans there?
Yeah, completely. I absolutely do. And I noticed the Plaid Cymru woman, her wreath was tiny compared to everyone else's, but I suppose that's by the by. I did watch our Veterans Minister. I did hear her this morning on a Ferrari show. And I was driving the car and I was gobsmacked at her ignorance, at her stupidity, at her lack of knowledge. She'd come on to talk about help for veterans, and she didn't know the first thing about it. And Ferrari was brilliant. She kept on saying, he asked her, how many people slept on the streets, and you said that. She obfuscated and said it's very hard to get the data, it's very hard to get these figures together. And then he just said to her, it's 3,700. Yeah. And she was stuttering and muttering and whatever. And she was talking about this organisation called Fortitude, which she said this helps veterans get accommodation. It doesn't actually. What it does is it refers veterans to local authorities. And this is the problem. There is help for vets in this country, but they've got to go through bureaucratic hoops to get at it. It's very difficult for them. And, we talk about mental health problems in this country. Lots of vets have huge amounts of mental health problems. If anyone deserves treatment and money and all the rest of it, it's them. Yeah. But they're not getting it. But I just think, when you have a veterans minister, and I don't even know why she is. I mean, Jake said to me earlier, she is a veteran. I said, well, she's not. She did one tour of Afghanistan, and she was in a what's the word? She wasn't doing any war-y stuff. She was just having meetings with people. She wasn't actually out there in the field. So why is someone like her doing that job? I don't get it.
OK.
I don't
know. I imagine she might say that classifies her as a veteran.
No, hang on. She was in support and liaison. Okay. Doesn't really classify as a veteran. Not really.
Jake, when you look at this Labour government now using historic prosecutions to essentially ruin old people's lives and also put loads of illegal immigrants into former military barracks, I mean, I'm sorry, how dare they go out there and, you know, oh, gosh, lest we forget.
Well, look, this thing about historic prosecutions is something we should really focus on, actually. So, a long time ago when I was at law school, one of the things we were told is that laws cannot be retrospective. It's one of the first things you learn, actually, when you're training to be a lawyer. What we're seeing with these historic prosecutions is laws brought in the late 1990s, in fact, the Human Rights Act, being prosecuted back to the 1960s. So these soldiers are being prosecuted under laws that didn't even exist when the alleged crime, whatever it may be, is said to have taken place. That is fundamentally wrong. It's a breach of rule of law in this country. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. And then we learned today in that Times Radio interview, which you played a short clip of, is that the committee who's looking at these historic prosecutions may well have former serving members of the IRA on the committee who themselves self-identify as a victim. I'm not sure if they are in all cases, but that is completely wrong. Imagine if you've been fighting or serving your country in any of the regiments that fought and worked so bravely in Northern Ireland at great risk themselves, and suddenly the people who were there, the bad guys, if you like, who you're there to stop blowing themselves up and blowing other people on the streets, were suddenly deciding your fate. It's an absolute disgrace. It just shows a country that has lost its way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's one kind of inquiry or panel where we won't have to worry about it dragging on too long, because if any of those members know how to set a timer, of course, it'll be the former members of the IRA, won't it? But, Benjamin, why do you think people were booing Keir Starmer, like veterans there were booing Keir Starmer's Lay the Wreath? I mean, that's a pretty stark wake-up call for him, surely.
I mean, I think the suggestion somehow that he shouldn't have laid a wreath is completely unreasonable. He is the Prime Minister. He's responsible for the armed forces as Prime Minister. And, you know, the reason why the Veterans Minister, who's served in Afghanistan, as Carol points out, the reason why, well, it's more than any of us have done.
Yeah.
The reason why she was doing the media rounds this morning was because they've announced lots of money to try and make sure there are no veterans living homeless.
I'm sorry,
£50 million.
No, 25 million, in fact, 27 million pounds.
And there's other things for mental health.
That isn't even half the week's bill for migrant hotels in this country. It is absolutely not fair that people who come to this country illegally get to stay in 4-star hotels, and we have veterans sleeping on the streets. It's appalling.
Let me put that to you. So in the 24-hour period leading up to Remembrance Sunday, I think I'm right in saying that roughly 1,000 illegal migrants crossed the Channel in that 24-hour period. Now, under the Labour plans now to have these military barracks used as accommodation, it's reasonable to suspect that in future some of those illegal migrants will go in there. And, you know, you've got the Prime Minister there laying a wreath. There's the historic prosecutions, which we've touched on. There's a Veterans Minister who doesn't know how many homeless veterans there are. And then there's the barracks that are going to be used now to house, let's be honest with you, like young lads from places like Afghanistan, as opposed to some of our veterans. I think that sticks in the craw a bit.
But let's be clear, these barracks, I think most of the suggestions are in Scotland, and they are empty at the moment.
Exactly, but why?
So it's not as though they're being taken off veterans. That's not the case. And the truth is that for years, for decades, we have clearly failed the people that have put their lives on the line. We should not face a competition between someone that's fled a war and someone that's fought in a war. I support both.
I don't think it's quite right to say that, because what you could do is you've got, I think in 4 days, 2,100 people arrived before the weekend. So very broad maths, in 8 days, if you didn't put those migrants who are entering our country illegally into hotels, I actually think they should go in barracks, by the way, and put them in barracks and tents in the north of Scotland. You could reach out and get every single homeless veteran and put them in... Benjamin, let me finish.
We can't.
Put them in a 4-star hotel. We should be putting our veterans in 4-star hotels, thanking them for their service, and putting migrants in tents.
Why didn't you?
Migrants in tents. Well, actually...
during COVID.
The Tories did much
Well, I was going to say it did happen during COVID.
On the streets during
the
COVID.
Tories
we
did
made
much
a choice.
better. There were lots of vets on the radio and on telly today saying that when the Tories were in power, especially David Cameron, they were very good with the services, very good. But, you know, it's a pity that the vet minister today hadn't been asked about how many vets have killed themselves, because in the last 8 to 10 years, more than 300 have. Where's the help for those people? You know, a lot of these people have PTSD, they have mental problems. They come away, they're injured. They've got nothing to do with their lives. They don't know what they're going to do. They can't adjust to civilian civilian life. Where's the help for that?
I think it's a problem with the left more generally, though. You've got exact white poppy Polanski, the SNP and Plaid Cymru, you know, having their logo on that wreath that was at the cenotaph. Everyone else's wreath seems to just have the black centre to the poppy that we've got here, and most of us will have on our poppies. Why were they doing that? Was there no message to the veterans there? Everyone else seemed to have a message, you know, that was written on it, and they didn't seem to as well. I don't know. I just saw the collection of people that were laying the wreath there, and I just thought, oh, really?
So I think the challenge, if you're Keir Starmer, you think you're representing Britain or looking after the armed forces by turning up maybe 2 days a year and laying a poppy at the cenotaph. It's the other 363 days a year that I want our government to go out, find those veterans who are homeless, deal with the mental health issues so we don't see so many people taking their own lives. And if they do put more money into that, I applaud them for it. But they need a year-round commitment. I applaud them for that. I applaud them for that.
But they are doing, and also they're introducing a training scheme in the NHS so that doctors and nurses can better spot the problems.
But don't you think that we're piggybacking on the Remembrance Day service yesterday to act by announcing that today?
Well, they're doing the right thing and they're doing it when people are listening.
All right, we've got to go. All right, OK. Now, of course, look, if you need a little bit of a boost, which I imagine some of you will do this Christmas, this is, of course, our very special Christmas Great British giveaway. 40 grand in tax-free cash and a little bit more as well. Here's how.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts, the tree, the trimmings, everything you might need for a fantastic festive day. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, we've got a lot more coming your way, including this.
Why do you think I'm a dog?
Officer, can you take this dog away?
You think I'm a dog?
Well, Tory MP Nick Timothy was called a dog by rabid pro-Palestine protesters, and it appears that the police took their side. He joins me live in the studio in a few minutes, but before that...
I was very disappointed recently that Ofcom decided not to proceed with proposals to take action on politicians presenting the news.
Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy was busy bashing GB News this weekend, all while the BBC was engulfed in a massive existential crisis, and she's just been forced to apologise for giving a plum job to someone that donated to her campaign. Maybe she needs to get her own house in order, and gosh, Lisa, I've got a funny feeling we might be around a little bit longer than you. That's next.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you Spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
Well, nice to see that the BBC is accepting the error of their ways there. The CEO, outgoing, of BBC News, insisting that there's no institutional bias. But the clock is ticking now. President Trump is threatening to sue the BBC for $1 billion. Watch this space. First, though, should the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, resign? It's time for the head-to-head. Well, the BBC is currently fighting for its future amid a massive impartiality scandal, but rather than focusing on that, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy yesterday chose to save her criticism for GB News.
I was really disappointed to see recently that Ofcom decided not to take action on politicians presenting the news.
You don't think that
And
Nigel
so-
Farage, for example, should be presenting a television programme on a TV cable news station?
Look, I think it's perfectly reasonable for politicians to appear on television and to play roles as presenters. What I don't think you can do is somehow pretend that that is news. It's opinion and it's polemic.
And that was by no means the only outlet that she decided to dig us out on, but perhaps the Culture Secretary needs to look a bit closer to home, because just last week she was forced to apologise after it emerged that her chosen nominee to lead a new football regulator had actually donated to both her and the Labour Party before she put his name forward for the role. In a letter to Lisa Nandy, the Prime Minister said he accepted her apology, but noted that the process to appoint the media executive David Cogan was not entirely up to the standard expected. I'm sorry, in normal circumstances, that would be a resignation matter, but of course not for this Labour government. Tonight I'm asking, does Lisa Nandy need to resign? Going ahead on this now, former Conservative MP Neil Parish and the Labour Councillor for North East Derbyshire District Council, Stuart Forster. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Tremendous to see you. Neil, I'll start with you. Does Lisa Nandy need to go, do you think?
I do, actually, because she's not only has he donated money to Lisa Nandy, she's also to Keir Starmer's own Labour Party branch, and overall about £30,000 has actually been donated to the Labour Party. And what seems interesting here is that the ministers don't seem to remember when they've had money donated to them. They don't seem to remember when the rules apply to somebody else but not to them. And I think it's just a whole case of the whole government seems to be rife at the moment, doesn't it, with problems, with mistakes, and then we just got to apologise and carry on. But if you do actually, you know, the job actually is worth about $130,000 a year. You do question, was any of the donations one of the reasons why he got the job? And I think this is, and of course you should declare them all. And it's interesting that during her leadership campaign, she obviously didn't know who had donated money to her. And I think the whole thing would be much cleaner if she was to resign and the government cleaned its act up. And I think Keir Starmer's also got questions to answer as to how much he knew about money donated to the Labour Party.
All right. Well, Stuart, this is undoubtedly a cronyism scandal at the heart of the Labour Party. Should Lisa Nandy spend a bit less time criticising GBNews and a bit more time resigning?
Well, I think it's a really interesting line to take on this, Neil, given your involvement in some of the scandals that happened under the previous Conservative government. I'm old enough when I recall you having to resign because of your own actions, and that was something a little more considered when what Lisa Nandy has been accused of. And let's just be clear, this isn't something that's happened because of a ministerial code breach, it's an appointments breach. And I think we need to look at facts behind this. Political donations are quite a complex web, and as you have outlined, not everybody is always quite aware of what is going in. Now, that's not necessarily something that, you know, should be accountable, but there's a very clear difference in between what you perpetrated and your government. We had sex offenders who were being covered up for by senior members of the Conservative government, actual breach of ministerial code.
Well, I would respectfully suggest that you might want to watch what you say there for a couple of reasons. Yes. For a couple of reasons. Including potentially some issues that we're not allowed to talk about on air, Stuart, as you well know. But instead of just constantly pointing the finger to what's gone previously, because Labour said they were going to hold themselves to a higher standard, didn't they? Labour was calling for everyone to resign. They probably called for Neil to resign, and he did resign. So why shouldn't Lisa Nandy go over this? Is the answer, it's OK, she was just incompetent? She didn't know that this person had donated. Is that the best they've got?
I think we need to look at the difference between the integrity here. Integrity isn't about being a human being that never makes any mistakes. Integrity is about putting your hand up and saying, I've made a mistake here and I'm reporting it. And that's the very factual difference in a lot of these cases. The bar now is much higher. There is an independent standards commissioner. And in this particular case, and indeed even with Rachel Reeves, they were reported to that person by themselves and made aware to the Prime Minister. So the material situation is entirely different. The bar is much higher, and people are reporting.
But it's not, is it?
Not wanting to be found out.
All right, fair enough. I mean, we could go on about that all day. I mean, it's a ridiculous line of approach to say the bar is much higher. I mean, in the case of Rachel Reeves, for example, if you or I did that, we would have a criminal record, most likely. So, but Neil, just on this, you know, Lisa Nandy's sitting in a studio there, making the BBC scandal all about GB News. I mean, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, she is a minister, she's cultural secretary for media and sport, and she has to take a really balanced view. And so, therefore, GB News is part of the mix, and great to have it. And you know, this idea that ministers are sort of immune from all the rules that they put out, and you're saying that, you know, the Labour Party guy is saying that, you know, standards are much higher. Well, if standards are much higher, then she should go. That's a clear message for that. I mean, I made my own decision to resign and go, but I made a mistake and I paid for it. And so we all make mistakes. But in the end, with these donations going far and wide in the Labour Party, I can't believe that Lisa Nandy didn't know that this donation had come in, and that's the problem, isn't it?
All right, OK. Well, look, guys, thank you very much. There's a good head-to-head there. Former Conservative MP Neil Parish and the Labour councillor for North East Derbyshire District Council, Stuart Fawcett. Of course, Lisa Nandy says it was an honest mistake and we all have to just move on. Well, coming up... A Palestine Action activist is the latest prisoner to go on the run. He failed to return to HMP Wandsworth after being let out to attend a wedding. Should he ever have been freed in the first place? Before that, though...
Why do you think I'm a dog? Officer, can you take this dog away? You think I'm a dog?
Pro-Palestine mob calls a serving MP a dog, and then a female police officer appears to side with them. That MP joins me in the studio next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. We've got some heavy rain moving back into parts of Spain and Portugal the next few days. Some showers towards Turkey as well. But in between some sunny spells, the risk of some rain moving into Madeira come Tuesday, and that rain finally approaching western parts of Portugal later on in the day. But elsewhere across the Mediterranean, generally dry with some sunny spells, though showers moving from Greece into Turkey through the day. Some of these could be heavy at times, and the outlook is for it to be largely dry with sunny spells, temperatures near average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening, more wet and windy weather to come tomorrow, especially in western parts where we have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the rainfall. Mild for many, although it is turning a bit colder tonight. The wet and windy weather tomorrow coming from this area of low pressure. This one's been bringing plenty of rain through the day today. Still some heavy downpours across northeast England, southeast Scotland this evening, but they're heading away out into the North Sea. A few showers across the southeast, but many places becoming dry and clear for a time. But here comes that next weather system bringing rain to Northern Ireland, West Wales by dawn, and the winds strengthening here too. Mild again in the southwest, but elsewhere a pretty chilly night actually, certainly compared to recent nights, and pockets of frost likely in northeast Scotland in rural areas. But should be a bright enough start here, dry and fine. We'll see some sunny spells, just a few showers in western Scotland. But head further south, the cloud already thickening, turning wet across Dumfries and Galloway for the morning rush hour. Really soggy start for Northern Ireland, and heavy bursts of rain covering much of Wales and western England too. Much of the East Midlands and East Anglia in the southeast will have a dry and generally dry, fine starts, which will continue for most of the day. But the winds will be picking up in the west. Have Met Office warnings in place for South Wales, southwest Scotland, and for the afternoon southwest England, with another pulse of rain coming in here. We also have to keep an eye on Northern Ireland because, again, here the ground is very wet, so more rain could also cause some flooding issues here. Much of northern Scotland stays dry on the chilly side here, but elsewhere it is, again, pretty mild with temperatures into the teens. The rain continues through the evening. A lot of spray surface water on the roads for Tuesday evening's rush hour. Yellow warnings remain in place across the west too. That rain continues northwards, grinds to halts on Wednesday across the far north. Further showery rain in the south, but in between we should on Wednesday see something a little drier and a little brighter with some sunshine around. Goodbye.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
Well, there you go. Nice to see that the former CEO of BBC News has learned her lesson. There's no institutional bias. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But first, landmark ruling now. A judge has said that the view that Islam is problematic and should be criticised is a protected belief under equalities law. So Patrick Lee was found guilty of misconduct by the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries last April over social media posts in which the 61-year-old called the Prophet Muhammad a, quotes, monster. But an employment tribunal has now ruled that Islam-critical beliefs are protected under the Equality Act. And there's been another news here as well, which kind of relates in a sense. I mean, this was the reception that Tory MP Nick Timothy got when he attended an Aston Villa match in Birmingham that Jewish football fans were essentially banned from.
Why do you think I'm a dog? Officer, can you take this dog away? You think I'm a dog? I haven't done anything. Go away. I'm a citizen of this country, and I'm free to do what I want.
Are we going to have an adult conversation?
No, is that my choice?
Don't entertain him. I'm asking you a question.
Don't entertain him. I was trying to have an adult conversation. They started calling me a dog and swearing at me. I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything wrong.
I think it's best that we leave it.
Well, I'm very pleased to be joined now by the Tory MP and Opposition Assistant Whip. It's Nick Timothy. Thank you very much. Tremendous to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, OK, let's deal with that clip first and foremost then. So, from what I saw anyway, you were basically called a dog by the Pro-Palestine Brigade. They then urged a female police officer to remove this dog, and then she appeared to take their side. Worrying stuff.
Yeah, so, I mean, to put it into context, this was a football match between Aston Villa and Maccabi Tel Aviv from Israel. The local politicians and Islamist activists campaigned very nastily to try to get the match itself cancelled. The match went ahead, but the local authorities, the police and Birmingham City Council, conspired to stop the Israeli supporters from attending. They said it was because there's a hooliganism problem among the Israeli supporters, but we all know that actually it was because they were concerned about clashes with local activists from within the Muslim population.
How concerned are you about that very proactive core now of political Islam that seems to be really on the move in Britain?
Well, it's very concerning, and it's been concerning for a really long time. I think it's becoming more prominent, partly because the Islamists themselves are becoming more emboldened. But we've obviously had a serious extremism problem going back, you know, at least since the 1980s, with the Salman Rushdie affair and things like that. But we've had a serious terrorism problem for more than a couple of decades. And increasingly what we're seeing is public authorities and even elected offices now dominated by people who hold Islamist beliefs. And this is very worrying because it's affecting the impartiality of services like the police.
Well, I'm going to play a clip now, and this was at a Your Party event. I believe it was actually on Remembrance Sunday as well, and I think you can probably count the number of poppies you can see in this clip. I mean, maybe even on one finger, actually. But this is the Independent/Your Party MP, Iqbal Mohammed. Let's listen to what he has to say.
These events, these activities, this unity must grow and continue and take over not just parts of Birmingham, but the whole of Birmingham, the whole of the West Midlands, the whole of the UK. Grassroots democracy in action. And we, our communities, have shown the establishment and the rest of the country that we will not be taken for granted, and we will win.
Does that concern you?
Well, of course it does. I mean, I think any of the politics of communalism that are entering into elected office in our democratic system is something that we should be really worried about. So these guys are in Parliament. There are local elections next year where we may see more such people elected at a local level, and you can see the effects that it's having already. Ayub Khan, the Gaza Independent MP in Birmingham, was behind the original protests that led to the ban on the Israeli Jewish supporters coming to Villa. But you can see how the Labour Party is reacting because they fear losing their Muslim voters. So, you know, they're proposing an official definition of so-called Islamophobia, which aligns the protection of people from harm with the protection of religious ideas from any kind of criticism.
Yeah, indeed. It's interesting you raise that. I mean, I will just stress again that obviously Iqbal Mohammed was the chap in the clip, Ayub Khan was the other MP that you mentioned there. But there is now as well another ruling that's gone through, which actually I think is pretty good news, which is, of course, about the fact that you can now essentially legally criticise criticise Islam without being subject to some kind of pseudo-blasphemy law that I think was staring down the barrel of us a little bit, wasn't it? Is that good news? Do you welcome that ruling there?
Well, I think it's ridiculous that it should take a lengthy legal process and to navigate the complexity of equality laws to be able to determine whether we're free to say these things. But this is the second legal ruling in a row now, after the successful appeal by Hamid Choskan, who was found guilty of public order offences after desecrating a Quran and saying things that were offensive to Muslims. So that's two legal rulings now, which have confirmed our right to criticise religious ideas. But if the government does go ahead and introduce this official definition of Islamophobia, then we're going to be back, if not to square one, then several steps back, because that the whole purpose of the Islamophobia definition is to protect religious ideas and beliefs from any kind of scrutiny, criticism, satire or whatever.
Do you think the Conservatives should have done a bit more to nip this in the bud sooner? I mean, obviously, under the 14 years that the Conservatives were in power, we did have huge levels of immigration from countries such as Pakistan and other parts of the Muslim world there. Some people, possibly myself included, to be honest with you, would probably make the case that this situation we find ourselves in now was probably inevitable and probably should have been stopped.
Well, the record of the Conservatives on immigration is incredibly disappointing, and like the rest of the country, and I say this as a newly elected MP, I'm angry about that record. Every one of those Conservative governments was elected saying we would reduce immigration. We didn't succeed in doing that. The Brexit referendum was supposed to give us control of the immigration system and of our borders, and immigration went up to record levels afterwards because of an excessively liberal policy that was introduced. On extremism itself, various things were done under the different Conservative governments, like massive clampdowns on hate preachers coming into the country and things like that. But we have to be honest, the problem hasn't gone away, it's got worse. So we need a completely different way of looking, not just at immigration, but how we handle these kinds of politics of separatism, religious separatism.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I do hope that your video that we played earlier on there can serve as a bit of a lesson to potentially some aspects of the police as well, which is not just to take things that are being said at face value and to clamp down on a serving member of Parliament over people who have been quite vile, I would argue, there was a very difficult thing to watch. So, Nick, thank you very much for your time, Stephen. We really appreciate it. Isn't it, Timothy? There, of course, the Conservative MP. Well, lots more to come. Bit of this at 10 p.m.
I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Well, I'm going to be having a little look at the BBC very shortly, but before that... There's another prisoner on the run. This time it's a member of Palestine Action who we decided to let out for a wedding and, get ready for this, just hasn't come back. Who could have seen that coming? That's next.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here to GBNews,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GBNews family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdley, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Well, welcome back. So, a Palestine Action protester is the latest prisoner to just go on the run after he was temporarily free to go to his brother's wedding. 32-year-old Sean Middlesbrough, who is charged over attacks on buildings belonging to Israeli tech firm Elbit Systems across the UK, is on remand in HMP Wandsworth, though he failed to return. Shock horror to the Category B prison after a judge granted him bail so he could go to a wedding. A flurry of prisoners have mistakenly been released from prisons over the past month. We've, of course, had the sex offender Brahim Kaddour Sharif, who was Algerian. He overstayed his visa. Hadoush Kabatu, an Ethiopian national who sexually assaulted a woman and obviously a 14-year-old girl just days after arriving on a small boat. I'm joined now by retired prison governor, Reform UK Justice Advisor Vanessa Frey. Vanessa, thank you very much. Why are we letting this Palestine Action person out of prison to begin with?
Oh, Patrick, I have no idea. Look, the saving grace for the prison services, it wasn't up to them to release him. It was a judge who granted him bail to attend his brother's wedding. Highly unusual. Why the judge thought that that was a good idea is beyond belief, but it just shows the systematic breakdown of our whole justice system, the courts, the prisons, probation.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no idea. So, I mean, the saving grace is for the prison service that it wasn't their cock up this time.
No, I mean, of course, I know people maybe slightly overuse this example, but Lucy Connolly wasn't granted bail, was she? No. But someone who is accused, and they've not been found guilty of anything yet, accused of being part of a now banned terrorist organisation and doing whatever they then allegedly did. You're okay. Gosh, you couldn't miss your brother's wedding.
Yeah, I mean, it's farcical, isn't it? I mean, it's laughable if it wasn't so serious, really. I have no idea. I mean, all I can assume is that this guy's solicitor applied for bail and the judge granted it so he could go to his brother's wedding. And it's usually quite unusual for them then to say, and then once you've been to the wedding, you've got to go back to prison, as if you're going to go and knock on the door. I mean, once you're given bail, you're usually given bail. So it seems very odd in all sorts of circumstances to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see there, you're looking at the screen, HMP Wandsworth had their house in order. There's the Union Jack and there's the LGBT and trans flag beneath it. It's nice to know that they've ticked all the boxes there. Of course, they don't appear to be keeping some of the prisoners in prison, but there you go. Just quickly then, I mean, on this, what will be happening now to try and get this guy back? Because, let's be honest, I mean, he could be anywhere, couldn't he?
Literally anywhere, yeah. Even, you know, he may well have fled the country, but the prison will liaise closely with the police on his visitors, his phone calls, any associations, his next of kin that he's got or that they know about, and we'll try and track him down. And you know, fair play to the police. I mean, they caught, with the public's help, obviously, Sharif and Kabatu in the last couple of weeks. Very difficult job for them, for sure, and one they could probably do without. You know, because whilst they're chasing these criminals around, they're not protecting the public and stopping other crimes.
Quite. Vanessa, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. I wish you all the best. Vanessa Frake there, who is retired prison governor and Reform UK Justice Advisor, coming up in just a couple of minutes' time.
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
Oh, well, lessons have not been learned, have they? President Trump is threatening to sue the BBC for $1 billion. I've got the latest on the BBC scandal.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening, more wet and windy weather to come tomorrow, especially in western parts where we have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the rainfall. Mild for many, although it is turning a bit colder tonight. The wet and windy weather tomorrow coming from this area of low pressure. This one's been bringing plenty of rain through the day today. Still some heavy downpours across northeast England, southeast Scotland this evening, but they're heading away out into the North Sea. A few showers across the southeast, but many places becoming dry and clear for a time. But here comes that next weather system bringing rain to Northern Ireland, West Wales by dawn, and the winds strengthening here too. Mild again in the southwest, but elsewhere a pretty chilly night actually, certainly compared to recent nights, and pockets of frost likely in northeast Scotland in rural areas. But should be a bright enough start here, dry and fine. We'll see some sunny spells, just a few showers in western Scotland. But head further south, the cloud already thickening, turning wet across Dumfries and Galloway for the morning rush hour. Really soggy start for Northern Ireland and heavy bursts of rain covering much of Wales and Western England too. Much of the East Midlands and East Anglia in the southeast will have a dry and generally dry, fine start, which will continue for most of the day. But the winds will be picking up in the west. Have Met Office warnings in place for South Wales, southwest Scotland, and for the afternoon southwest England, with another pulse of rain coming in here. We also have to keep an eye on Northern Ireland because again here the ground is very wet, so more rain could also cause some flooding issues here. Much of northern Scotland stays dry on the chilly side here, but elsewhere it is, again, pretty mild with temperatures into the teens. The rain continues through the evening. A lot of spray surface water on the roads for Tuesday evening's rush hour. Yellow warnings remain in place across the west too. That rain continues northwards, grinds to a halt on Wednesday across the far north. Further showery rain in the south, but in between we should on Wednesday see something a little drier and a little brighter with some sunshine around. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. There's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 the best year yet. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag. And we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
I also think we're doing a reasonably good job of walking along the joyous tightrope of the culture wars, where, you know, being progressive, diverse, doing the things we should be proud of is not woke.
yes, it is. And the BBC Director General, gone.
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
Yes, there is. And the BBC Chief Executive of News, gone. But the countdown for the BBC to be sued for $1 billion by President Trump is on. And GB News presenter Ben Leo spoke to the president's lawyer.
What's your message to them? What's the president's message to the BBC right at this moment?
I think the message is fairly transparent in that the president will hold accountable those that transmit false and fake information.
But get this.
I was very disappointed recently that Ofcom decided not to proceed with proposals to take action on politicians presenting the news.
Labour's Culture, Media and Sport Minister threatens GB News. Well, bring it on. We'll be here a lot longer than you. Also... Another illegal migrant that we sent back to France has now returned to Britain again. And some breaking news on the front of tomorrow's Daily Telegraph. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is considering raising taxes in order to scrap the two-child benefit cap completely. I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages with my panel. And tonight, it's Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist Benjamin Butterworth, and Reform member and former Tory party chairman Sir Jade Berry. And I regret to inform you that Meghan Markle has released a Christmas video. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Good riddance to the BBC. Next.
Very good evening to you. It's 2 minutes past 10 here in the GB newsroom. President Trump's demanding the BBC retract the Panorama documentary in which his speech was edited, or he'll sue for $1 billion, giving the broadcaster until Friday to respond. His threat of legal action follows an apology from the BBC chairman, Samir Shah, for what he called an error of judgment in the programme, which put two parts of Trump's speech together, so he appears to explicitly encourage the Capitol Hill riots of January 2021. It's prompted the resignation of the BBC's Director General, Tim Davie, and its head of news, Deborah Turness.
I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me. But I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Well, Mr. Trump's legal team have told GB News why he's taking legal action in an exclusive interview with The Late Show Live.
The president is extremely frustrated, yet adamant in his belief that he is going to hold accountable those that engage in and peddle in false information and untruthful statements. And so he's upset about it for his own benefit and really for the community as a whole, given the fact that institutions such as the BBC have the ability and the free rein to engage in such defamatory conduct.
The Chancellor's given the strongest hint yet that she will announce tax rises in the budget. Speaking to the BBC, Rachel Reeves suggested she'll be unable to honour Labour's manifesto pledge not to increase income tax because doing so would mean deep cuts in public spending. She's also understood to be planning to scrap the two-child benefit cap in full in a move that could cost more than £3 billion, saying children should not be penalised for being part of a large family. Former heads of the army have accused the Prime Minister of allowing human rights law to undermine the effectiveness of Britain's armed forces. 9 four-star generals have signed an open letter in the Times to warn that soldiers' trust in the legal system has deteriorated to an extent that it presents a direct threat to national security. They blame so-called lawfare being used to fight political or ideological battles, saying decisions made in combat, which were lawful at the time, are later re-evaluated in the misplaced light of hindsight. The General's intervention will coincide with Armistice Day on Tuesday, when the nation remembers its forces' sacrifices. 8 people have been killed after an explosion near a popular landmark in the Indian capital, New Delhi. The police commissioner of the city says it happened just before 7 p.m. local time when a slow-moving vehicle stopped at a red light and then exploded. The blast occurred near the Red Fort, a tourist destination in a densely populated area of the city. Around 20 other people have been injured, and police say the cause of the explosion is not yet known. Finally, the International Olympic Committee is set to announce a blanket ban on transgender women in female competitions early next year. The IOC's medical and scientific director last week updated the committee after a review of evidence about permanent physical advantages of being born male. The new IOC president, Kirsty Coventry, vowed to bring in the policy as part of her election campaign. Is expected to be introduced in the next 6 to 12 months ahead of the LA Olympics. That's it for the moment. Now back to Patrick.
Good evening. It's about time the BBC faced a day of reckoning. Last night, the Director General and the Chief Executive of News both resigned. Yes, this Director General.
I also think we're doing a reasonably good job of walking along the joyous tightrope of the culture wars, where, you know, being progressive, diverse, doing the things we should be proud of is not woke.
And this CEO of News, who's clearly still in total denial.
I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Well, there is institutional bias at the BBC. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. Just look at what happens when their neutral reporters leave the BBC. They all come out as raging left-wingers. Goodall, Mateless and Sopel do a left-wing podcast together. Goodall was the policy editor at Newsnight. Mateless was their flagship presenter. And Sopel was their chief political correspondent and North America editor. They're all moaning, oh, there's no institutional bias against Trump. Well, here's Emily Mateless losing her mind when Trump won.
When Donald Trump talked about the eating cats and dogs, half of America was just thinking, this is bad. I can't believe what he's saying. This is going to be the end of him.
Yeah, stop swearing, Emily. I think she later stormed off and then had to come back. And here's Sopel going into bat for Hugh Edwards.
We now know there was no illegality. So what are you left with? Someone's private life has come under scrutiny, who is now unwell. I think it would be a crying shame if this is the last we see of Hugh Edwards on television, when the allegations have turned out to be not that much.
Yeah. I'm not surprised that President Trump has threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion if the corporation doesn't apologise and basically take down the documentary about him. Do you remember Andrew Marr? He left. Shock horror. He appears to be a massive left-winger too. Here he is on Question Time after Labour won.
And suddenly, for once, for the first time in many of our lives, actually Britain looks like a little haven of peace and stability, and that in itself is going to draw money into this country.
Oh, gosh. The BBC has an institutional pro-transgender bias. Negative stories about the trans people are allegedly kept off air. And look at what I have here, OK? So this is an email from an LGBT and identity reporter at the BBC. We can bring that up. What does it say at the bottom? Look at that. What does it say at the bottom? There, yeah. The BBC logo in the colours of the rainbow flag. And then it says he's an LGBTQ plus ally and supports inclusion. Oh, yeah, no bias there at all. No bias at all. And that's why the BBC included drag queens on their list of influential, inspirational mothers. There you are. They try to insert trans people into as much stuff as possible.
I knew that I was transgender since I was 4.
You'd never know, would you? They also removed the fact that a convicted paedophile was actually a drag queen and a Pride event organiser. They even made aliens non-binary.
Meep. Yes, the meep. I promise I can help him get home and then you'll never see me again.
You're assuming he as a pronoun.
True. Yes, sorry, good point. Are you he or she or they?
My chosen pronoun is the definite article. I am always the meep.
Oh. I do that.
Oh, it's definitely something. And CBeebies even had a gender-neutral raccoon, just to really drive home that gender ideology to kids everywhere. They've got an anti-Israel, pro-Gaza, I would argue pro-Hamas bias. The BBC didn't want to refer to Hamas as a terrorist organisation. They did Hamas propaganda with the documentary. They had to pull off air that starred the son of a Hamas minister. Now, because of last night's resignation, apparently their new acting head of news is this guy, Jonathan Munro, who tried to claim that it was fine for the BBC to use local Gaza journalists because Hamas doesn't control what they say.
They're not restricted in what they're able to see and show. There may be physical restrictions. For example, not many of them have got much fuel to go from one town to another, let's say, but there's no restriction on what they can show, what they can see and what they can film when they're on location.
But that's just obviously rubbish, isn't it? I mean, they've been pushing race theory for years. Please let me your ears for this news I shall impart. May not have been told, we have been here from the start. Yeah, but basically, I mean, just to summarise that, apparently, basically, there was just loads of black people in Anglo-Saxon Britain and all of that stuff, and, you know, of course, yeah. I mean, they have been influenced by Muslim pressure groups, like the Centre for Media Monitoring, which used to be an offshoot of the Muslim Council of Britain. BBC editor Richard Burgess even spoke at an event hosted by the Centre for Media Monitoring in Parliament. I mean, is it any wonder that they didn't do a huge amount of reporting on the rape gangs? I mean, how could they? When Emily Maitlis was there.
Do you not think, Emily, there's an issue with Pakistani Muslims raping working-class white underage girls? Do you not think there's an issue there?
I think there is an appalling issue with grooming when it hits any community and any age. We only ever hear you talk about Pakistani perpetrators.
Are you telling me there's no issue?
I'm telling you that you are focusing on Pakistani grooming gangs because probably you're racist and you don't believe that there are white perpetrators of the same crime. Can you deny that?
Well, I mean, how could the BBC cover it when they were so desperate to tell us all about how great asylum seekers are and how much racism they suffer? They actually did a documentary about the Bedreddin brothers, who were later convicted for being ringleaders of a grooming gang in Newcastle. Yeah, even their ex-top sports presenter is a frothing lefty.
Slaughter and capture of innocent Israelis on October the 7th. And
which was awful, which was truly awful.
And that full context needs to be there when discussing what's going on.
But that's not the full context, is it?
Yeah, but look at what's happening. Look at what's happening. This is all about BBC bias. That's what the story is. The BBC pumping out misinformation around the world. The BBC platforming people who thought that Jews should be burnt like Hitler did. That's the story. that we all have to pay for that content or face criminal prosecution. That is the story. So what does the Labour Minister for Culture, Media and Sport, Lisa Nandy, say? Well, she makes it all about GB News.
Look, I think it's perfectly reasonable for politicians to appear on television and to play roles as presenters. What I don't think you can do is somehow pretend that that is news. It's opinion and it's polemic.
Well, Ms Nandy, I think that's a pretty risky game to play if you say that you're going to clamp down on GB News, because Nandy is facing calls to resign for failing to declare that she had received donations from the man that she picked to run England's new football regulator. He also donated to Sir Keir Starmer, who has, naturally, cleared her of all wrongdoing. I mean, you can try and take us on if you want, Ms Nandy, but I have a funny feeling that GB News will be around a lot longer than you or this Labour government. Let's get thoughts from my panel. Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist Benjamin Butterworth and Reform Party member, former Tory Party chairman Sir Jake Berry. So, Carol, this BBC thing, they've not learned anything, have they? Coming out, resigning, going, but there's no institutional bias at the
You had Deborah Turnus on there. You know, she actually, I don't think you read her resignation speech. She said to her journalists when she was leaving, I've never been more proud of the work you all do. What, faking the news? She also said, we will no longer be able to lead you in our vision of truth without agenda. Hello? Total agenda. Davey, his resignation speech, no remorse, no apology, no explanation, just saying what a fantastic lot of people they work with. These people don't get it. And then you have the chairman, Samir Shah, coming out at lunchtime, denying there was institutional bias and saying mistakes had been made. No, these weren't mistakes. The Trump film was a deliberate misrepresentation of what Trump said a week before the presidential election. This wasn't a mistake. It was completely deliberate. And you got people like Nick Robinson at the weekend, the Today presenter, actually saying this was part of a plot to bring down the BBC. It's not that they're pumping out fake news like China and Russia does. It's the fact that we're all trying to bring down the BBC. Today, almost every Labour MP is on Twitter saying it's still the most trusted news station in the world. No, it is not. They're not getting it. It's not trusted in London, never mind around the world.
Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, came out and was basically backing the BBC, so we can't give in to people like Nigel Farage. Or their ability, like Lisa Nandy did, to make a BBC story of institutional left-wing bias running right through the core of our state broadcaster, all about GB News and Nigel Farage. It's almost impressive.
I know, and Carol is right, because she captures how angry the public are about this. I just wanted to focus on Tim Davies' legacy that he's had, leading the BBC on £545,000 a year for 5 years. Let's not forget, he was brought in to sort the organisation out after the Jimmy Savile scandal. So he was brought in...
Bashir, it was after Mark Bashir.
Savile and Bashir. In his time there, he's overseen the Gary Lineker tweet scandal. He's overseen the Hugh Edwards scandal. He's overseen the scandal about the Gaza documentary, which was part presented by the son of a Hamas official. He's overseen the Bob Villan scandal. We've seen the scandal around Greg Wallace. We've seen Strictly Come Dancing brought down virtually as a show because of a bullying row. I mean, this is not someone who's had a stellar career while receiving over £500,000 a year of our money. He has dragged this institution down, and, you know, Carol's right. People have lost trust with the BBC.
Well, Benjamin, if there's no institutional bias, why is it that when pretty much anyone of note leaves, they always go on and do this kind of pseudo-coming-out ceremony where it turns out that, shock horror, they're all... Sorry, I've hidden this well for years, but it turns out I'm a massive lefty.
But, of course, that's codswallop, Patrick.
You are ridiculous. You are totally ridiculous.
Well, take, for example, the founder of...
When does your podcast start? Come on, when are you going to let us know your left-wing?
Tell us the founder of this channel, Andrew Neil.
So he's one.
Right? A man who continues to be a regular columnist for the Daily Mail and on Times Radio, which are right-leaning outlets. Jeremy Paxman.
You describe Times Radio as a right-leaning
Jeremy Paxman came out as a One Nation Tory. John Humphreys, the flagship Radio 4 presenter, talked about how he votes Conservative and became a Daily Mail columnist. So there are three of the most famous political reporters that the BBC has had.
Let's drag it back to it more modern times.
So your point is not valid. It is wrong and it is misleading.
You don't think that there's an institutional left-wing bias there? What job did Amal Rajan used to do?
He was editor of The Independent.
The Independent. the left-wing newspaper.
Well, The Independent was independent, and so, you know, so was Andrew Marr. He was also editor of The Independent.
Right, oh, there you go. But yes, so another left...
A neutral newspaper. But the point...
They're not neutral, are they?
The point is that you are trying to cherry-pick to mislead people. And actually, the whole reason...
Fake news.
The reason you hate the BBC is because it's impartial.
Listen,
that's why you're threatened by it.
The current row is about this dossier that was released that exposed all these horrendous things, but the major thing being that they misrepresented the president of the free world. And I really hope Trump does sue them for £1 billion quid, because they've got until Thursday at 5 o'clock. This is the other thing. Samir Shah, the chairman, said today, I'm considering issuing an apology to Donald Trump. He should be crawling on his belly to issue an apology, because if he doesn't, they're going to get sued for £1 billion quid, and quite right.
It's more than that, though, isn't it? It's things like editing out the fact that a paedophile was, no, not one that worked for the BBC this time, no, a paedophile was also a drag queen and a member of a local pride organisation group. So they've just removed that from an article. And then they've got reporters that work for them with I'm an LGBT ally at the bottom of their thing. I mean, that's institutional bias, isn't it?
I think the challenge you have is like all of these big state-funded or publicly funded institutions, they basically start to exist not to serve the public who pay for them, but to actually serve their own agenda and their own needs. Why no one thinks that they have any institutional bias at the BBC is because they all agree with each other. And they go to work and they say, well, did you see that article in The Guardian or The Independent? Oh, wasn't it wonderful? And that's the challenge, is there's no mindset that goes in there and says, well, actually, what do the British public think? It's all about what the BBC thinks. And you have, and that's what people are fed up with. And let's not, it's 180 quid, the licence fee. If you don't pay it, you go to prison. So I'm perfectly happy for the BBC to carry on and produce great radio programmes like The Archers and things like that, things I enjoy. But I want the British public to be given the ability to support the BBC if they think it produces content they want. And if we created a subscription, I think the BBC would actually be better.
But the idea that everyone running the BBC is left-wing is nonsense, because Sir Robbie Gibb was in Theresa May's Conservative government. Nick Robinson...
Theresa May's Conservative government.
Yes.
You're not going to
what did he do? Was he a political...
Nick Robinson was chair of his Conservative Party at Oxford University.
Hello, Nick Robinson this morning tried to
Tim Davies was a Conservative council candidate.
Can I just say, this is just a slightly thing I will point out about Nick Robinson, is that there was a dinner event held not so long ago at which Nick Robinson was at, during which he was pretty vile, actually, and made it quite clear his views on GBNews. The idea to claim that Nick...
Is that the one I was at?
Possibly, yes. The idea that he is not.
He tried to do a defence.
I personally find.
He tried to do like an impartial defence this morning of what's being happened, and he couldn't bloom and do it. He had a whole slew of guests on saying how fantastic the BBC was, and it wasn't institutionally biased. And the problem here is, they can't change because they can't fix what they won't acknowledge. Right. So if they're not acknowledging it's biased, how can they ever fix it? They've got to, unless you sack everybody, it's never going to get better, which is why they have to do what you've just said and defund it and let them do what they want, but we shouldn't have to pay.
But they will genuinely believe that they're not biased because they all sit in meetings, they all agree with each other. It is a problem. It is that is the problem it has.
You say that.
It doesn't allow a diversity of views within the building.
Their own reporters this week, there's some this morning actually said, every day this week they have met, the board members and the top execs, trying to decide what kind of statement they should make, what they could say. They couldn't agree. A whole week has gone by and the BBC, the state corporation, has not put a statement out until today.
What you're trying to do is take a handful of mistakes, and the Trump edit was clearly a mistake, and trying to make that reflective. You've had your chance. Trying to make that reflective of 21,000 employees, news output that occurs 24 hours a day across the entire globe. There are many stories which are of huge value and huge public service journalism, and the idea that one mistake is reflective of that organisation is nonsense.
And the truth is,
I would believe the BBC on accuracy and impartiality over Donald Trump any day of the week.
He's got a fact about how many mistakes the BBC
I've ripped my notes here, Carol. So they made two a week.
He's ripped his notes
They made two a week, and which may not be as many as people think. But the challenge is that documentary wasn't just a mistake; it was an attempt at international election interference.
Was it?
Well, of course it was. It mashed up Donald. It mashed up Donald Trump's speech to pretend that he'd called for an attack on the Capitol building. It was completely untrue. What may not have been successful election interference, it was still an attempt at election interference. And I predicted this time last week that Donald Trump would sue the BBC. What I predict this week is they won't get the House in order by 5 o'clock on Friday to respond, and I suspect that Donald Trump will carry out his threats.
They're going to lose more they're going to lose more licence space because people will listen to the statements that the chairman made today, saying that everyone's imagining the bias, and people will drop the licence.
Arrogance beyond belief.
We're going to move on. Yes, well, coming up, actually, I've got, as well, it's a story that I know you're all going to be very interested in. It's to do with another hokey-cokey migrant. I've got some exclusive footage for you. But before that, this will cheer you up. Do you want loads of cash in time for Christmas? Here's how.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts, the tree, the trimmings, everything you might need for a fantastic festive day. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GBNews goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Breaking news on the front of tomorrow's Daily Telegraph is that Rachel Reeves is considering raising taxes in order to scrap the two-child benefit cap completely. More on that shortly, but next. French police standing around on a beach doing nothing. Illegal migrant human traffickers using it to advertise crossings. And guess what? There's been another hokey-cokey migrant. More on that next.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The Royal British Legion is launching the Poppy Appeal to raise funds to support the armed forces community.
Well, the launch will be held at Frameless, where veterans supported by the RBL will share their stories amid a spectacular, immersive poppy landscape projection.
Well, the appeal will encourage the nation to wear a poppy to send a personal message of thanks to those who serve.
Well, let's talk to our national reporter, Will Godley.
And this is all part of the Royal British Legion's fundraising, this Poppy Appeal, happening from now until Armistice Day on, of course, 11th of November, raising money for the armed forces community. They're hoping to raise £50 million to support the some 7,000 veterans, family members and armed forces. And when you were in Afghanistan, that's when your military career came to an unexpected end, wasn't it? What happened there?
So I was the point man in a foot patrol, and unfortunately I was involved in an explosion which subsequently took my hearing from my left ear, and due to that I was forced to leave the army for medical reasons.
And since then, Jason, you've been supported by the Royal British Legion. What kind of support have they offered for you?
Well, it's a vast array of support, really. It can be financial, you know, mental health. They can signpost you for different various charities and support that, you know, as veterans that we really essentially do need, you know, to rebuild our lives and get to a better point, you know, and be positive in our lives, know that we've got that hand on our shoulder when it's needed.
and I can hear you sounding a little bit emotional talking about it. What kind of a difference has that made, that support, on your life?
Oh, it's massive, you know, you can't really... It's not something you can put into words.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, shortly I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages and that breaking news about your taxes, courtesy of Rachel Reeves as well. But first, a second migrant deported to France under the one-in-one-out deal. It's not a one-in-one-out deal. Anyway, you guessed it, he's come back to Britain. Yay! He was one of almost 400 small boat migrants that entered Britain earlier today. The news comes less than a week after another small boat migrant was eventually sent back to France after he also crossed back to Britain following his deportation under the loads-in, one-out deal. And tonight I can exclusively reveal that people smugglers are deliberately using the lack of action by French authorities to advertise channel crossings online. We've come across this video, which is on a human trafficker's TikTok profile. Tell me what you see here.
Tamam, ben alacağım diyorum, sıkıntıya girme.
Go. So what you will have seen there is French police officers on the beach in Calais, or Dunkirk actually, not doing anything, and then illegals going in a boat. And human traffickers are using that as advertisement for their services and how to break into Britain. Joining me now is Home Affairs and Defence editor of the Daily Express, Michael Knowles. Michael, thank you very, very much. So we've got another hokey-cokey migrant, haven't we? How long do you think it'll take us to deport this one again before he inevitably comes back for a third time?
Well, the Home Office say that he's going to be extradited as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, though, we know that this will take weeks. The previous case took 3-4 weeks to get him out of the country, and he'd only been out of the country 29 days when he came back. It's frankly farcical, really, this deal. The government treats it as though it's their flagship scheme to prevent channel migrant crossings, but unfortunately, as your video shows, it's just not treated that way by either the smugglers or the asylum seekers themselves.
Well, given the fact that we've had a couple of thousand who've come over in the last few days, it's not only not a deterrent to other illegal immigrants, it's also not a deterrent to the ones that we've actually sent back to France, is it?
No. I mean, as we know from the actual mechanics of the scheme, the migrants that are sent to France aren't even detained, so they are able to just freely leave the shelters in Paris. Now, we know most of these people have come from the Middle East or the Horn of Africa. They're not going to be deterred from a 3-hour trip from Paris to Calais when they've, frankly, stayed in the back of lorries for 10 days to reach France in the first place. It's truly alarming that this is seen as a deterrent at the moment.
I just wonder how they continue to pay for all of this, though, because we keep being told that, you know, they're forking out thousands of pounds or whatever it is to cross the English Channel. But I find that quite surprising that a bloke who's managed to come across and then be deported and then, you know, come back again in the space of... Presumably he's just got... I mean, he's got more in savings than me, this guy.
Well, yes, and we know that some are actually put into slave labour when they come across the channel. So they'll pay their £3,000 to cross, and then they're effectively put into cannabis farms or made to work illegally for pennies. But we know that the way that the migrants operate is they use a secretive financing system. So effectively, family members pay for these crossings in other countries. So there's not people walking around in France with thousands. They're basically using their family incomes to try and reach the UK because, as the Home Office say, they know that migrants are effectively asylum shopping. They're looking for the best places in Europe to go with the most benefits. I mean, you only have to look through TikTok, don't you, where you see migrants on hotels, and they show off their 4- and 5-star hotels. It is truly extraordinary.
Well, just on that, in my next hour, I'm going to be talking about a revelation that we are paying migrants to leave and go back to places like the Democratic Republic of Congo, but then we're also giving them support in how to set up a business there. So essentially, it's a quick way to get a business degree, isn't it? Break into Britain, we'll pay you to leave. I mean, the Ethiopian guy we sent back, Kabatu, we gave him 500 quid. It's not far off a year's salary in Ethiopia. So he's done quite well out of it in that sense. And then we might also teach him how to run a business over there. That is ridiculous. But you mentioned social media, and that was the clip that I was playing earlier on, which we've got hold of illegal migrant human traffickers using clips like this to advertise getting to Britain. The French police doing nothing. Now, you know, we have something like 30 arrests for social media posts in this country every single day. At the moment, the government doesn't seem to bother about getting these social media accounts taken down, does it?
No, and I think part of the problem is the fact that lots of these smugglers don't actually operate in the UK, so it's very hard for them to convince Silicon Valley to take down posts in France or Iraqi Kurdistan, Iran, Afghanistan. It's so problematic, this element of it, because it's so easy. I mean, you only have to follow some of the smugglers, and you know yourself that they're so blatant about it. And as soon as one account shut down, they only changed the number at the... I mean, I've seen examples where the smugglers put his name and then just put 1, got deleted, went to 2, deleted, 3, and they just cycle through. It's a game to them, and it's no wonder that business is booming so much in France at the moment.
Well, absolutely. Look, thank you very, very much for coming on, and also congratulations on everything the Daily Express has been doing as well to highlight this issue. Is Michael Knowles there, who is the Home Affairs and Defence Editor of the Daily Express. Well, a spokesperson for the Home Office said anyone looking to return to the UK after being removed under the UK-France agreement is, you're just wasting your time and money. This individual was detected by biometrics and detained immediately. His case will be expedited. He will be returned to France as quickly as possible. The message is clear. If you try to return to the UK, you will be sent back. Yeah, and then you come again. Anyway, all right. OK, anyway, I've got loads of news for you on the front pages. The Guardian is claiming that a BBC board member with a Tory link led the charge over claims of BBC bias. Oh, here we go. The blame game's begun. And more taxes, you'll be pleased to know. All that next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. We've got some heavy rain moving back into parts of Spain and Portugal the next few days. Some showers towards Turkey as well. But in between some sunny spells, risk of some rain moving into Madeira come Tuesday, and that rain finally approaching western parts of Portugal later on in the day. But elsewhere across the Mediterranean, generally dry with some sunny spells, though showers moving from Greece into Turkey through the day. Some of these could be heavy at times, and the outlook is for it to be largely dry with sunny spells, temperatures near average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening. More wet and windy weather to come tomorrow, especially in western parts where we have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the rainfall. Mild for many, although it is turning a bit colder tonight. The wet and windy weather tomorrow coming from this area of low pressure. This one's been bringing plenty of rain through the day today. Still some heavy downpours across northeast England, southeast Scotland this evening, but they're heading away out into the North Sea. A few showers across the southeast, but many places becoming dry and clear for a time. But here comes that next weather system bringing rain to Northern Ireland, West Wales by dawn, and the winds strengthening here too. Mild again in the southwest, but elsewhere a pretty chilly night actually, certainly compared to recent nights, and pockets of frost likely in northeast Scotland in rural areas. But should be a bright enough start here, dry and fine. We'll see some sunny spells, just a few showers in western Scotland. But head further south, the cloud already thickening, turning wet across Dumfries and Galloway for the morning rush hour. Really soggy start for Northern Ireland, and heavy bursts of rain covering much of Wales and western England too. Much of the East Midlands and East Anglia in the southeast will have a dry and generally dry, fine starts, which will continue for most of the day. But the winds will be picking up in the west. Have Met Office warnings in place for South Wales, southwest Scotland, and for the afternoon southwest England, with another pulse of rain coming in here. We also have to keep an eye on Northern Ireland because, again, here the ground is very wet, so more rain could also cause some flooding issues here. Much of northern Scotland stays dry on the chilly side here, but elsewhere it is, again, pretty mild with temperatures into the teens. The rain continues through the evening. A lot of spray surface water on the roads for Tuesday evening's rush hour. Yellow warnings remain in place across the west too. That rain continues northwards, grinds to halts on Wednesday across the far north. Further showery rain in the south, but in between we should on Wednesday see something a little drier and a little brighter with some sunshine around. Goodbye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Let's whiz you through the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, starting with the Daily Telegraph. We've got Trump to sue BBC for $11 billion. $1 billion. Oh, just the one, is it? Also, Rachel Reeves hints that she's going to raise tax to scrap the two-child benefit cap. So more taxes, so loads of people who are possibly already on benefits can have kids. Great. The iPaper. Future of the BBC licence fee in jeopardy as Trump threatens $1 billion legal action. Well, you know what? They shouldn't have been so rubbish for so many years, then, should they? The Guardian, BBC board member with Tory link led the charge over bias claims. Yeah, OK. All right, fair enough. So it's all the Tories' fault, isn't it?
Well, everything else is.
Parties are... Got rid of that biscuit yet that you're eating there. That was my last biscuit you just truffed in there.
Thank you. Is that made a front page, Carol?
No, it hasn't. But it will do if I get my way.
It will do after you've killed me, yeah. The Daily Mail, Trump tells BBC, grovel or I'll sue you for $1 billion. It doesn't have quite the same impact when I say something like that, does it?
$1 billion.
Yeah, grovel or I'll sue you for $1 billion. No one cares. The Sun, Beeb's $1 billion bungle. There you go. I mean, it's got cut through this story, hasn't it? What do we think's on the Metro? Find out in the next segment. Right, let's go straight now to Washington, D.C., because Ben Leo has been a busy boy. He has managed to interview President Trump's lawyer. We've got a bit of an exclusive on this. Ben, over to you. What can we expect?
$1 billion. Yes, indeed. I don't think it'll get that far. My crew, by the way, my crew here were urging me to do that, so that's the only reason I did it. But anyway, yes, $1 billion lawsuit. President Trump's lawyer has said the BBC needs to apologise and pay up by Friday, or they'll pursue this case in the Floridian courts. And the reason I stress that it's a Florida court is because if it was pursued in the UK, it's far too late. The statute of time limits is 1 year for defamation, so it can't happen in the UK. It will happen in Florida. And I asked President Trump's lawyer, I'm not going to tell you the answer because you need to watch The Late Show live tonight from midnight on GB News, but I asked the lawyer, I said, look, what is the number President Trump needs from the BBC? How much do licence fee payers need to cough up to President Trump for him to draw a line under this row? The answer will come tonight at midnight. Amongst other questions as well, I made the case that, look, President Trump, of course, is a massive Anglophile. He loves Great Britain. He's got a great affinity with the country. His mother, of course, was Scottish. Is he aware that at whatever point this ends, either through settlement or a $1 billion court case, it will be British people, TV watchers, who are forced to pay the licence fee, or else Auntie sends the heavies round, who will ultimately be responsible for paying this fine? The lawyer answered that as well. Amongst other things, I also put to him that beyond defamation, is there not a case here for election interference? Because this Panorama case, this documentary, was aired 1 week before last year's election. So it could be argued that the BBC here is guilty of foreign election interference. All that plus more coming tonight at midnight. I think we've got a little clip, have we? Here's a teaser of what happened when I spoke to President Trump's lawyer a bit earlier tonight. What's your message to them? What's the president's message to the BBC right at this moment?
I think the message is fairly transparent in that the president will hold accountable those that transmit false and fake information. He believes that there is an institutional bias that's been reflected in the reporting about him, that there has been a lack of impartiality with respect to the reporting that has been engaged in. I think that there's been an intentional ignorance of evidence of bias within the BBC that needs to be remedied through governance arrangements that are fair and appropriate. And I think that those are the messages that we're trying to convey to them at this point in time.
And just finally, Patrick, I asked also whether President Trump had any direct influence on the resignations of Davey and Turness yesterday. He'll answer that at midnight. And also, breaking tonight as well, it's rumoured that the White House could pull the press credentials or at least reduce the access of BBC reporters in the White House. So there you go. See you at midnight for the full exclusive interview.
Wow, good stuff. All right, thank you very, very much, Ben Leo. Make sure that you stay tuned for the Late Show Live. I'll obviously be on for another hour as well, so we'll be giving you a bit more info in the run-up to that. Jake, should he sue for $1 billion?
Well, I think President Trump is quite right to defend his reputation. I think this was an egregious attack on his reputation, and that's the way the American law works. These mind-blowingly large sums of money, which would never get through the court here in the UK, are actually normal in America. I just want to pick up on this point of electoral interference. This is really, really serious stuff. If our state broadcaster is found or is believed by the White House to have sought to unfairly influence the American elections, that will not go unpunished in the United States. This is potential diplomatic incident stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could be wrong about this, but I remember doing a story not so long ago about why the BBC decided that they wanted to renovate the statue to a historic paedophile outside the front of one of their buildings. And they claimed at the time that it wasn't taxpayers' money that was going for it because that statue was insured, and therefore it was insurance money that was happening. Now, I wonder if the BBC is insured against things like being sued, right? Which might mean that it wouldn't be taxpayers' money that going. The BBC could be insured against that kind of stuff, defamation lawsuits, etc.
I bet they haven't got £1 billion worth of cover.
But there you go. Yeah, exactly. They might not have. So what do you think of that? I mean, the BBC could be sued for $1 billion. The point is this: do you think they'll apologise? So, look, his demands are this.
Of course,
he demands an apology. So we're going to get a grovelling apology.
What he said he wants is a full and fair retraction of what was put out. And I am absolutely certain he will get that. But it just shows you today, the chairman, Samir Shah, just said in the most arrogant way, I am considering giving Donald Trump an apology. I mean, seriously, is he so stupid that he doesn't get what his reporters have done, what the state broadcast has done? They don't get how serious this is. But so, which is why I kind of hope Trump hits them with a lawsuit. I really do, because there has to be consequences for what they are doing every day of every week now. There has to be consequences. And so far, they have ridden all the waves that have hit them. They've just kept quiet and hoped it would all go away, and it has.
The deadline, I think, is 10 p.m. on Friday, which means it's during my Friday night show. So we're obviously going to have a countdown clock.
Yeah. Of course.
Do you think that they'll apologise?
Well, I think they will, they should, and they should also do that before 9 p.m. on Friday if they have any wisdom, to be honest with you. Well, look, clearly they made a mistake. It's not acceptable what they did.
It's not a mistake, Ben.
It is a mistake.
It's not. It was a willful misrepresentation of what Trump said. That's not a mistake.
It was a mistake. And also, it was a year ago. Look, I don't think it had any impact of any description on the US election.
Yes, exactly.
Because no one noticed for 13 months. So that's pretty evident that it wasn't influencing because no one realised.
But no one in the media realised. We don't know if anyone in America watched it.
They're going to sue for $1 billion. If you think about the Fox News lawsuit where they made false claims about election machines they used in the US election, that was $700 million, and that was considerably more serious.
It is good that the threat is there.
All right, well, when we come back, yes, more taxes. That's what it seems to be from Rachel Reeves this time, so you can pay for people who can't afford to have kids to have more kids. That's next.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, we say small flag. It was 30 feet across, 24 feet high. But, so I suppose it's relative. But it had a brand through the middle of it, or a campaign really, says flytheflag.uk.
Yeah.
Because if we just put up a Union flag, then people would just go, a Union flag. Oh, by the way, I'm just going to correct that. Everybody tries to pull you up, it's not a Union Jack. Well, I've decided we all know it better as the Union Jack. No other country has got a Union Jack. They've got a flag of the country. So I'm no longer going to accept people trying to pull us up for that.
Yep.
But anyway, so we put it on there so that people would identify that we're trying to do something, not just another flag.
Yeah.
So the council didn't like that because they said it's not a flag, it's an advertisement. Well, I'm not too bothered. There was a bit of a mistake on the proofing as well, which is ironic because the company that manufactured it was actually based in Clown in Chesterfield, UK printing company, and they made a mistake and I didn't really spot it because I was out of the country.
All right.
So that also caused a problem. But I thought, well, I'm not just going to take it down because of that. I own the building. Let's just see what happens. So I thought, no, out of principle, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to leave it up and let's if you want to take us to court, if you want to waste taxpayers' money, I'll fight it out of principle.
So Chesterfield councillors, they clutched their pearls, but what's been the reaction in the community?
I would say 98, 99% positive. People going past, popping the router, thumbs up. Of the various different videos and images that have been up, we think we're nearly 3 million views, which is an estimate, but 99%, you're always going to get some dissenters. Some people want to call it racist, fascist. I think it's just the easy tropes to chuck out there that they've chucked out so much that they've lost all their meaning, really.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
OK, let's round off tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The Times, BBC is told to say sorry or Trump will sue for $1 billion. And also Rachel Reeves is lifting the two-child benefit cap as well as taxes. She's hinted at it. The Daily Express, you will pay the price for vicious OAP tax raid. Rachel Reeves must spare pensioners vindictive tax rises. The Independent, BBC says sorry, but Trump threatens to sue for $1 billion. And finally, The Mirror, we've told the kids everything, the good and the bad. This is Prince William opening up about how open he is with, well, they are, with their children about Kate's cancer battle. Let's just focus a bit on the two-child benefit cap and Labour potentially wanting to scrap it. Reform also wants to scrap the two-child benefit cap, don't they?
Yeah, it makes sense to scrap the two-child benefit cap if you live in a country which has a population crisis. We need people who live in the UK to have more children. But it only makes sense to do that if you also at the same time say you can only receive benefits if you're a British citizen. So what Labour's, they're doing half of it. They said, well, we'll just give money, but the problem is half of that will go to immigrants and people who aren't British. Reform's policy of, yes, do it, encourage people to have kids, enable people to have more kids, but only use British taxpayers' cash to give money to British citizens.
Yes, but
that's the difference.
The problem with that is that we've been giving the British passport out to everyone.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
People that are born in Mirpur are British citizens, aren't they?
I think that would change under a Reform government, if I'm honest, Patrick.
So hang on, a child that's born to immigrant parents in Britain, what, they not British? What do you mean?
I mean, the parents, because the child doesn't get the benefit, the parents get the benefit. The parents should be British citizens. Benefit should only be paid. Benefit should only be paid to British citizens. The parents could become British citizens if they want.
That's quite right. If you can't afford 2 children, well, don't have any more.
We've got to make, Carol. We've got a birth crisis in the country. The reason we have all of these people coming to our country, encouraged by the Treasury,
into this country, who we keep on saying should be allowed to work. So the population has swelled by 1 million. Those people will presumably have lots of children. So how do we have a population crisis? I don't understand it.
But the challenge is we have a population crisis of British people not having enough kids. Then the Treasury and successive governments, including the Conservative government, fills that by having mass immigration reforms. Policy solution is don't let as many people in, but encourage British people to have kids and do that through the benefit system. If you look at countries,
Labour government.
Well, if you look at countries like Hungary, I oppose what Rachel Reeves doing. I say, but there is sense to what Nigel Farage says. If you look at countries like Hungary, they are so concerned about the fall in Hungarians having children. Once you've had your 4th child, you don't pay income tax. Hey, I'd sign up to that.
Yeah, I would as well. 100%.
I'm not sure your wife would though, Patrick.
No, she'd be up for it as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I never.
If you said to us, I have 4 kids, don't pay any income tax again, we would knock them out. Anyway, on that bombshell.
But you don't have to knock them out.
Bombshell. Well, I'll be part of it. Right, I'll be there for the next hour with the newspapers and probably a divorce.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening, more wet and windy weather to come tomorrow, especially in western parts where we have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the rainfall. Mild for many, although it is turning a bit colder tonight. The wet and windy weather tomorrow coming from this area of low pressure. This one's been bringing plenty of rain through the day today. Still some heavy downpours across northeast England, southeast Scotland this evening, but they're heading away out into the North Sea. A few showers across the southeast, but many places becoming dry and clear for a time. But here comes that next weather system bringing rain to Northern Ireland, West Wales by dawn, and the winds strengthening here too. Mild again in the southwest, but elsewhere a pretty chilly night actually, certainly compared to recent nights, and pockets of frost likely in northeast Scotland in rural areas. But should be a bright enough start here, dry and fine. We'll see some sunny spells, just a few showers in western Scotland. But head further south, the cloud already thickening, turning wet across Dumfries and Galloway for the morning rush hour. Really soggy start for Northern Ireland and heavy bursts of rain covering much of Wales and western England too. Much of the East Midlands and East Anglia in the southeast will have a dry and generally dry, fine start, which will continue for most of the day. But the winds will be picking up in the west. Have Met Office warnings in place for South Wales, southwest Scotland, and for the afternoon southwest England, with another pulse of rain coming in here. We also have to keep an eye on Northern Ireland because, again, here the ground is very wet, so more rain could also cause some flooding issues here. Much of northern Scotland stays dry on the chilly side here, but elsewhere it is, again, pretty mild with temperatures into the teens. The rain continues through the evening. A lot of spray surface water on the road